Well, I learned a couple of things this morning about Massachusetts State Police. So I wanted to share with you guys. So first of all, very polite gentlemen, and they drive. Looks like the choice of their purchasing department is with Ford. So I met two nice guys. One was driving a Ford, I think, Explorer, with the whole thing in the back. Like he opens the back and like the whole thing slides out. It's like a tray with a whole bunch of equipment. They can put so much stuff in there. And then another guy showed up, and he had a pickup truck, Ford F-150, very cool, you know, with a moose bumper. But anyway, they pulled me over because it's unusual for Massachusetts, and I did not know, to have, you know, so many axles. Like most local guys run on like 3-axle trailer, and well, I think the guy yesterday was loading next to me. He had a 4-axle truck, but a day cab. You know, they keep it light because Massachusetts, unlike New Hampshire or New York, the weights are much less that they allow on permits, you know. And so the guy in the Ford SUV asked, he says, he stopped. Oh, and we're driving, and I see this unmarked SUV passes me like very slowly, and then changes lanes in front of me, like everything's cool, signaling. And right away I noticed that in the back on the bumper they have these, like the vehicle is not marked as a police. There's no antennas, you know. Before you can tell that it's a police vehicle by a bunch of antennas, right? Because a civilian car will have like one antenna, right? But cops always have more than one because they have, you know, radios in there, right? But this guy was very kind of like camouflage, you know, operation. So no antenna. The only giveaway was he had these, you know, those safety, what do you call them? Like those marks, you know, kind of like stay away, you know, like marks on the bumper. And you only see them either on school buses or on police vehicles. You know, those markings, right? Like, you know, vertical bars, you know. And at first I'm looking and I don't understand. The guy's driving like in front of me, so I slowed down to keep the distance, and everything is cool. We're moving the traffic stop and go on 495 in Mass, and I'm thinking it's a bus, maybe, you know, like you never know. It can be like a vehicle that carries kids, right? That's why they had those. But I knew that it was not a basic civilian vehicle. Something was, those bars, you know, they caught my attention, the markings on the bumper. And then we're coming to a sign, and the sign says arrest area ahead 1 mile. And as soon as that car pulls up to the entrance, he slows down and he puts his and he starts advertising. Remember those, we did a video back, right? So he puts his flashes on, and he opens the window and he points like this, basically. So right away, of course, I knew what's gonna happen, that I'm going into that guy just passed. That's the pickup truck officer. And so he pulled me in, and we're walking around scratching our heads. And I said, you know, like, I show him, and he was asking me for my permit, and then what's the weight, and I said, I found, actually, I'm telling you, it's so useful to have this YouTube channel. Like, not only do I go back to watch my videos to see how to secure similar machine that I didn't before, and now I'm doing it again, right? But also sometimes, like in this situation, I quickly found that video with this blue, it was a Peterson grinder, that I loaded at a rail yard somewhere. I forgot, it was Texas or something, or somewhere in the Midwest in there. And I found that video, and I remember I scaled that one, and I did like 3 videos about that blue machine, and right in the title one of them says Peterson grinder, 78,000 pounds. And I went to the officer in that in the SUV, and I said, well, that's what I'm assuming. I said, it's the same type of a machine, you know, same size. And if you watch that video of me loading that blue one, you will see that it's like almost identical to this one, you know. Like these guys, they never know for sure the weight. It's all misleading, you know. And so the first officer says, okay, we're gonna scale you. And he opens his back, he slides out that rack, and Jesus, he had like 6 portable scales. And he says, we're gonna scale your front axle, we're gonna scale your 3 axles. And he says, then I'm calling another guy, he's coming because he says, I don't have enough to scale your trailer. He says he'll be here shortly. And then he was directing me, go back a little bit, and I said, if I go back, my pusher axle will go up. And he says, I don't want the pusher to go up. And I said, there's nothing I can do. As soon as I put it in reverse, it goes up. I said, it's automatic. And of course that ruins the pressure, right? So I said, if I go up, just if you wait a little bit, the pressure will, you know, normalize, and you will see the actual reading, right? And so yeah, I didn't use my scale because I never can calibrate them properly. Like I do have a thing, I still have that on the, I can actually see the truck and the pusher, right? Because now I have that valve where the pusher is equalized with the drives, right? And again, now I'm getting a Jeep, right? So I'm telling you, these, it's just a waste of money. Like unless you're a dedicated truck, you're doing always the same stuff, you never move your 5th wheel, you know. But as soon as I move something, or sometimes I don't use the pusher, so these scales that I spent, I forgot, 700 bucks, 800 bucks on, it's just a waste of money. You know that, what is it called? Air something, right? That, never mind. Anyway, and then another officer shows up in this pickup truck, and they check the trailer, and they find the weight, and they gave me a scale. Oh, by the way, the second officer says, "Are you on YouTube?" I said, "Yeah," and then he took me over here to this yard. So now I have to order a new permit, and I got a fine, but it's okay, you know, stuff happens, you know. Like I honestly thought it wouldn't be this heavy. So now I need a super load permit. Either that, or I have to reload it on a different trailer and use a different truck. That's what they were saying. They were saying that if you get a day cab with a 3 axles instead of 4 and a lighter trailer, then you know you can get away with the regular permit. And he was asking me like, how heavy is your truck? I said 27,000. He says, that's heavy. Yeah, I said, yeah, because it has a big engine, double frame, right? But yeah, over here in Massachusetts, you see, you have to be very light. That's why I think the other guy, I forgot, did he have a sleeper, or was it a day cab? The guy who was loading next to me. But he was just picking up like a 40,000 pound machine. But I remember that's what he told me. He says over here, because they don't give us a lot of weight, he says we try to keep the weight down, and so that's why they just run with 3 axle trailers, you know. But I was telling the first guy, I said, you know, it's so much hassle to disconnect that axle. I said I use it all the time. I just, you know, when I have a load like this, right, I just put it down, and so this gives me some flexibility. And actually, when they were looking at the at the axle weights, it was pretty much like very nicely balanced, by the way. You know, I got 17.8 on the front, 17,800 here, and then I got about 57, 58 on the pusher and drives, and then on the last 4 axle it's like, what is it, 18.7, 19.1, 18.5, 18.3. So basically I'm not over the rating of my trailer, I'm not over the rating of my truck, I'm not over the rating of my axles, and I'm not over the rating of my tires. So everything is properly. It's the only problem is that Massachusetts is so greedy with weights. You know, they don't give you enough weight, and so basically I emailed the broker who gave me this load. I said, small delay, but I said I'm not sure how long I'll be sitting here, because these super loads, they take a long time. But then she said, okay, keep us posted, because yeah, I have 1 truck, 1 trailer, right? I cannot just drop it. Or, well, actually I asked the cops, I said, can you maybe allow me to go back at least to New Hampshire, and then maybe I can try another route, like go north, you know, through Quebec, because straight north, what is that? That's New Hampshire, and then you have Vermont, which I think is also pretty bad for weight. But then there's Quebec and there's Canada, right? In Ontario, I'm okay, I have an annual permit. And he says no. He says we cannot allow you to go back. It's about 30 miles. 30 miles on 495. He says you're too heavy. You need a new permit, buddy. Okay. But again, no problems. I have no complaints about, you know, the cops themselves. They're very professional, very polite. One of them was watching my YouTube videos. So thank you for watching. But yeah, so this stuff happens. I just wanted to record this not as a complaint, but just to show you guys the complexity of this heavy haul business, and that's why we cannot run for $2 or $3 a mile, or even 4. You know, you have to charge a premium, because there's always a risk. There's always a risk of these delays. You know, all these permits. You know, especially this part. You know, northeast, it's all tolls. You know, and like at least one good thing about Mass is that in terms of, you know, permits, is that they don't have a problem with height, right? Whereas as soon as you get into New York, 13.6, right? And they, like, you cannot go on the toll road if you're over 13.6. But Mass, I think it's 13.8 or 13.9, and then you just need to buy a, you know, permit for the turnpike. So at least something is okay here. But yeah, just I think they should allow more weight, you know, because why the nearby states allow much more, right? And as soon as you cross the line, it's like a different planet. Like, it's pretty much the same climate, right? Because I was 35 miles away in New Hampshire, and they allow 150,000 on a basic permit, right? As soon as you cross that line, so you're still in the same time zone, same climate, everything the same, probably the same factory makes, you know, asphalt, right? It's just, you know, politicians, I think. That's who, it's all politics. Because now, of course, I need a more expensive permit. I have to pay, and now I have to pay the fine. So not sure what they're gonna do with the money, because the roads are okay. But anyway, at least I found parking. They escorted me to this Mass DOT yard, I guess, that they use for bad drivers. And I said,
in 200 meters, turn right onto Massachusetts 110.
Sorry about that. No, unfortunately, we're not turning anywhere. Miss Google, we are stranded. We have a monkey wrench in our plans. But anyway, so yeah, so that's what makes this business complicated, right? So many regulations, and as you can see, like each state, one state is so different from the actual neighboring state. You know, I'm not even talking about, let's say, New Hampshire versus Ontario, Canada, but New Hampshire versus Massachusetts, and then Massachusetts versus New York. You know, like why they cannot come up with some kind of a uniform, you know, regulations to allow us to haul, let's say, I don't know, I'll pay you $500, just allow me to haul up to my manufacturing capacity. You know, like my truck is rated for 85,000 gross, you know, like 20, 20, 20, 20, right? No, wait, my last two axles are actually 46,000 pounds. So my truck is rated for 46, 66, I think it's like 86,000 pounds is my gross weight of my truck. And then the trailer, of course, is, I forget, 150, 160. Basically, 120 is the payload plus the weight, which is like 30, right? So yeah, 150. So if they would allow us to do that, I think that would be so, you know, would make things so much easier. You just pay, okay, I'll pay a higher fee, like what, by the way, what they do, what Mass should do, what we do in Ontario. Ontario, you get an annual permit, and you only get 63.5 kgs gross. 63 times 2.2, only 139,700 pounds. But if you pay them 2.5 times more, like instead of 350 Canadian, you pay them 740 or 750, you get enhanced permit. And that one, annual or blanket permit, and that one allows me, like in this configuration, 4 plus 4, gives me 71,000 kgs, which is already 156, right? And then the same enhanced permit, I don't have to change anything, but as soon as I add a Jeep, but like they don't look at the 4-axle truck, but let's say 3-axle truck, tandem Jeep, and 4-axle trailer, you get 78,000 kgs times 2.2, so we get 171 on an annual permit. You know, how cool is that? I'm telling you, Canada, with the exception of Quebec, is so heavy haul friendly. And then, of course, in the West, if you go to Alberta and stuff like that, they don't recognize pusher axles, but that's okay. You know, if I'm gonna be doing this heavy stuff with a Jeep, I don't need that pusher. You know, I will have a tandem Jeep and a Stinger in the back. At least they recognize that. So basically, in a short while, you will see Captain Sergei hauling, you know, up to 110, 120,000 pounds. And so I will have, like, you know, steer axle, tandem drives, and then tandem Jeep, and then 2 axles on the trailer, and then a spreader bar, 14-foot spreader bar, and another 2 axles, right? So we'll be running 2 plus 2 plus 2 in the back. And that's, you know, I like that because then it's much easier to maneuver, to go around corners, you know, and that setup is actually recognized kind of almost universally, like in Canada, Western Canada, Eastern Canada. Not sure about here, what they do with this, but yeah, here, I don't know, if they consider a super load anything over 130,000 gross. Now imagine if I was 200,000, because with that setup, my gross weight, you know, just, I will give you guys an idea. So what's coming? What's coming is even more hassle in terms of paperwork. Like if now I get stranded for being 150,000 gross. Now imagine what's gonna happen when I'm when I have a Jeep and a Stinger. So the Jeep will be 8,000 pounds, and that spreader bar is probably about 3,000. So my empty weight will be like 71 plus 120. My gross weight will be 191. So I don't know, that probably, like with a weight like that, you probably cannot even come here, because over here they require police escort when you're over 130,000 on the turnpike. I think you need a police escort. And actually this other guy that watches my YouTube videos, I asked him, I said, because I don't know, I said, how much is it? Like, if my permit says I need a police escort, like, how much you guys charge? And he says, well, I don't know what they charge you, but he says, I only know what I'm getting, like, per hour, you know. And he says that of course there's fees, but he told me what they pay him, but that doesn't tell me anything, right? So anyway, so what's gonna happen now is, basically my permit is void. I cannot use it. So basically I don't have a permit. But the good news is that at least I know all my weights, right? And so I emailed the permit service company. I said, well, let's see if they will issue us a super load permit. So at least now I know the weights. It was an expensive scale, but it was worth it. Like, the regular scale is what? In the States it's 11 bucks, in Canada it's 18 Canadian. So this particular scale cost me $1,200, which I didn't, of course I didn't pay yet, I just got it, right? So that's my fine, 1,200 US. And that just adds to my previous topic about this being complicated trucking operation. That's why you cannot do these loads for cheap, you know. And you always have to, you know, be ready for delays and stuff like that. And I know some guys don't like this, but you know, I'd rather do like 2 loads a month and make a bunch of money than run around with a step deck at $2 a mile, you know. So another good thing is that this part, this yard is, let me show you how it looks. See, that's what it looks like. I'm looking at some discarded, look at those like covers for some utility vents. And this is the back of a mall. There's a mall here with all kinds of stores, and so they don't charge me for parking here. They said, yeah, you can stay here as long as you want until you get your permit. And I can see in the mirror on the other side there's a Panera Bread, and so that's my plan now. I'm gonna go to Panera Bread, get some breakfast, and they have free Wi-Fi in there, so I can upload this video. Maybe wait a bit. And we are waiting for my permit service lady, because she said they send it when she submitted the new weights. She says they send it for bridge review, and she says the permit itself is like 300 bucks for the new gross. But I said, how much is the bridge review? Are they gonna bill you, or will they tell you the price? Because if it's gonna be like 5,000 bucks, you know, I'm not gonna do it, right? I'll just tell them to send another truck and unload it here or somewhere. Like, that's the worst case scenario. If they don't give me a permit, I will have to find a way to reload it on another truck, you know. And then probably I'm not gonna make any money. I'm gonna lose money, because now I have a fine and I cannot deliver this to Canada. Well, we'll see what now the ball is in the hands of Massachusetts DOT permit department. Let's see what they say. I'll keep you guys posted. Don't go anywhere. I'll be here a very long time.